Just after dawn, the Caribbean looked like a postcard: flat seas, blinding sun. Overhead, a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon prowled a smuggler's corridor and spotted an anomaly: a nameless, flagless craft with no AIS transponder. Not proof, but in this funnel, a siren. The sighting set off a precise chain reaction. Under Northern Command's maritime defense umbrella, USS gravely altered course. Aboard were Coast Guard Law Enforcement Detachment 401, the boarding specialists who turned suspicion into evidence and evidence into cases. The playbook was simple: find, fix, finish, without leaving outcomes to ocean or luck. A destroyer's hunt. At just after 600, Gravely's radar picked up the same uncooperative blip. Bridge-to-bridge calls drew no response. The ship's crew moved like a pit crew, rigid hull inflatable boats, craned over the side, engines coughing awake, boarding kits checked, M4s, body cams, cutters, tamper-evident bags, and the 1,000 little things that make a seizure stick in court. From afar, the target looked like a tired fishing boat. Up close, the tells began to stack. Odd fuel runs, peculiar weight distribution, a wake that didn't match the sea. In trafficking lanes, trained eyes see stories in the way a boat sits. And this one was telling all the wrong ones. The strangest part? No break for it. The suspect craft simply drifted, as if waiting for the law to arrive. Smugglers rarely surrender to fate. That's either a bluff or a sign they're carrying something they can't afford to dump. Gravely played it by the book: project strength without escalating, block the clean escape line, and let the RHIB teams do what they're built to do: VBSS, visit, board, search, and seizure. Prepare to be boarded. Leadet 401 closed the gap in controlled bursts, throttles easing, handlers reading wind and wave, body cams on, loud hailers in English and Spanish, then the climb. The deck was too neat, too tense, like a stage after the actors slipped away. 3 men stood rigid, silent. Real fisherman talk, these didn't. The team split, one securing crew and helm, the other searching. Fresh paint on seams, loose panels, uneven flooring. In the hold, 19 bulky bales, triple wrapped in burlap, tape, and plastic, cartel standard packaging built for sea and scrutiny. One was opened, compressed, off-white bricks stamped with a green S, not just a test result, but a pattern, packaging, paint, placement. Every detail fit the playbook. Evidence over adrenaline. Finding drugs is only halfway. Turning them into convictions is the grind. Law Enforcement Detachment. 401 shifted from hunters to archivists. Each bale was weighed, photographed, cataloged, sealed, labels marked with date, time, GPS, and witnesses. Chain of custody began with the first brick and wouldn't end until the last form ashore. A secondary team probed for hidden compartments or booby traps, using gauges, bore scopes, and the knuckle test: tap, listen, map by ear. Nothing left to chance. Meanwhile, Gravely's lookouts scanned for fast pangas or shadow boats. The Caribbean is crowded, and loads gone bad attract friends. Helos stood ready, and nearby units monitored the airwaves for rescue attempts or stunts. The number that mattered. By day's end, the tally was official. Approximately 860 pounds of cocaine, 19 bales averaging in the mid-40-pound range, a street valuation around $13.7 million. Not a once-in-a-generation jackpot, but a body blow, the kind that makes a dispatcher on shore start redoing math and calling in favors. The 3 men, mid-30s, playing at being fishermen, were cuffed, photographed, and transferred to Gravely for safe detention. No instant interrogations. At sea, the Navy and Coast Guard prioritize custody and safety. The federal casework picks up on land. Why it worked? Patterns beat disguises. Smugglers pour creativity into camouflage, fake weathering, borrowed paint schemes, AIS games, odd anchor routines designed to look like engine trouble. But the ocean has rhythms, and traffickers often break them. The boat's route didn't match fishing patterns. The anchoring behavior made no practical sense. The hull wear looked applied, not earned. This is where the destroyer plus law enforcement detachment model shines. Gravely sensors, big ship radar, optical suites, data links to aircraft see far. The Coast Guard team understands the human layer, how crews fidget when they're dirty, how packaging evolves, how compartments shift as cartels trade tricks. Together they make the ocean feel smaller for traffickers, the bigger architecture behind a single bust. This wasn't a one-off lucky catch. It was one tile in a multinational, long-running hammer strategy that's been pounding Caribbean and Eastern Pacific routes since 2012. The premise is simple. Forward interdiction. Stop the bulk offshore before it atomizes into couriers and stash houses ashore. Every bale grabbed at sea is a dose not sold, a bribe not paid, a gun not purchased. It's also a systems fight. A destroyer can scan hundreds of miles. The P-8 Poseidon adds infrared and surface search radar with endurance. When needed, high-altitude drones supply wide-area coverage and live video. All of it ties back through encrypted networks to shore analysts tracking routes, symbols, and serial numbers. If a boarding team calls for backup, the response is measured in minutes, not hours. Equally crucial, the legal choreography. The moment contraband appears, so do the checklists. Weather and sea state are logged. Body cams tell an unbroken story. The order of removal, which bail came out when, who witnessed, how it was sealed, becomes a line-item narrative that prosecutors can point to and defense attorneys can't easily pick apart. It's not glamorous, but it's how cases survive the courtroom. Inside the boarding room, step into that cramped space below decks, half office, half evidence locker. You'll find the clipboards and scanners alongside rifle racks. Sailors and Coast Guardsmen work shoulder to shoulder, double-checking weights and verifying labels. On the bulkhead, the checklist that turns a wild, salt-sprayed seizure into clean, litigable evidence. Back on the bridge, intelligence specialists trace the boat's life. Hull ID plates, engine serial numbers, ownership records, any paper trail that can be matched to theft reports or previous sightings. Often, a single seized hull carries the fingerprints of multiple past runs. Each match is a thread tugged from a much larger web. What 860 pounds really means. The math isn't just dollars. Supply chains run on predictability, lose a major shipment, and bosses doubt. Partners hesitate, routes shift. New crews, new risks, new chances to intercept. The ripple effect often outweighs the load itself, and upstream seizures blunt the damage downstream. Fewer overdoses, fewer turf wars, fewer families broken by a bale hidden in a hold. From sea to courtroom, once the boat and cargo are secured, the handover begins, usually at a U.S. territory port. Every step, escort routes, transfer windows, storage, is scripted to erase technicalities. The vessel may serve as evidence or be scrapped, depending on legal guidance. The 3 detainees won't face cameras. Their path runs through agents, prosecutors, and judges who've heard it all. What matters is the record, the logs and footage that hold the case together, the human element that beats the ocean. It's tempting to credit the machines, the radar sweeps, the satellite links, the live video from far overhead, but technology is only ever amplifier and glue. The decisive advantage was people. The watchstander who noticed the pattern break, the boat coxswain who feathered the throttle through messy chop, the leadette lead who kept a volatile scene calm, the seaman who triple-checked a label because the case might hinge on a date stamp and a GPS coordinate. Those small choices, made under heat, glare, and pressure, are how a quiet Caribbean morning turns into a clean, defensible $13.7 million seizure. What the traffickers learned. By sunset, word was already spreading. The lanes are watched, the patterns known, the response swift and airtight. For Gravely's crew, no victory lap, just quiet pride and the next watch. Interdiction isn't a finale. It's discipline repeated until the other side doubts its luck. 19 bales, 860 pounds, $13.7 million. A destroyer and Coast Guard team turned a fishing boat into a crime scene and a crime scene into a case. That's the difference between a headline and a strategy. In the maritime funnel, nothing slips by when training, teamwork, and tempo align. The last crucial mile. The lesson isn't speed or spectacle, it's certainty. Certainty the right target was stopped. Certainty danger was contained. Certainty a prosecutor can later prove exactly what happened. That's how you turn a calm morning into a broken supply chain, how cartel logistics become costly, unpredictable, and risky. And that's why, far from the sea, someone who expected payday is already rewriting plans. Thanks for riding shotgun on this Interdiction deep dive. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit like and subscribe for more high-stakes missions and real-world tactics, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next brief.